Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? You are humbly requested to be seated in the main ballroom. You are humbly requested to be seated in the main ballroom. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Bangladesh.
From 1971 to 2022, from one of the poorest nations in the world to one of the fastest growing nations, Bangladesh is a remarkable story of poverty and development. Now, we are on track to graduate from the UN's list of least developed countries in 2026. A robust demographic dividend, RMG exports, resilient remittance inflows, and conditions have allowed Bangladesh to keep a strong track record of growth and development, even in times of elevated global uncertainty. The rise of export-led industrialization is at the heart of Bangladesh's success story. An unprecedented opportunity has been presented to us to run an experiment of sustainable industrialization in a rapidly growing nation, incorporating all lessons from history. One of the most effective family planning campaigns in the world. It has the highest number of LEED certified green factories. It also has multiple potential economic thrust sectors with export potential, such as software and ICT, pharmaceuticals, leather products, footwear, and shipbuilding. The rapid proliferation of internet access across the nation has allowed new dimensions of industry, leading to a boom in startups with foreign funding. The nation, once dubbed as a bottomless basket, now hopes to be a role model for sustainable growth as it carves out its own path to the first world. This is our journey, and it is just beginning. Welcome to Bangladesh.
Ladies and gentlemen, now we will begin the very first Bay of Bengal Conversation hosted by the Center for Governance Studies.
Home to more than 1.93 billion people, the Bay of Bengal is a vital and historic gateway for trade, transport, and cultural exchange between the East and West. The demographic, economic, and security developments here have significant implications for Asia and the global order. As geopolitical hurdles remain at large, issues converge into a region lacking integration, people-to-person connections, and numerous shared development challenges.
In Kabul, their protests are met with tear gas, rifle butts, and metal clubs.
In South Asia, shifting rain patterns can leave some cities underwater and others without enough water for power generation, agriculture, and even for drinking.
The international community must examine other durable solutions for Rohingya.
It is essential to collaborate and find mutually beneficial and sustainable solutions while evaluating the geopolitical architecture of the Bay and identifying the current and potential threats surrounding the region.
Because South Asia is the least integrated regions, and you look at the trade inside the region, we are the lowest in the world.
For successful regional integration, some important questions need to be asked and answered. How can a new model of regional cooperation balance security concerns with economic needs while respecting state sovereignty? How can nations pool their resources, encourage investment, and increase their capacity to withstand climate shocks while enhancing adaptation efforts? How can the region take advantage of extra-regional initiatives such as the Indo-Pacific Strategy and the Bay of Bengal Industrial Growth Belt to foster regional connectivity and promote trade, investment, and inclusive growth? How might persistent poverty and rising inequality risk regional peace and stability? How may the exchange of ideas aid in promoting inclusive governance in the region? And what would a Bay of Bengal regional cooperation framework look like? To explore all these issues and more, the Center for Governance Studies presents the Bay of Bengal Conversation. The conference will be the first of its kind to bring together stakeholders from multiple communities and nations. Over 200 speakers from 70 countries will hold sustained dialogue for regional representation and cooperation.
Ladies and gentlemen, we now welcome onto the stage Zillur Rahman, Executive Director of CGS and the Chair of the Bay of Bengal Conversation. Boris Tadic, former President of Serbia and a member of the esteemed Club de Madrid. And Dr. Manjur Ahmed Chaudhuri, Chairman of the Center for Governance Studies. Mr. Zillur Rahman will begin the session with his opening remark.
Assalamu alaikum, namaskar, and good morning. Honored guests from home and abroad, I feel so proud to welcome you to our first ever Bay of Bengal Conversation. As many of you know, this event has been my dream for a very long time. It was not an easy task for our independent think tank to host such a conference. We had to fight tooth and nail and fight for every inch to make it happen. Yet, despite war and pandemic, here we are at last. By hosting this regional cooperation dialogue in Bangladesh, I hope to incorporate our growing expertise in track to diplomacy, allowing both government and non-government actors to come together and carry out all of the conversations that are currently not taking place in official channels due to a slew of diplomatic and administrative roadblocks. For ages, the Bay of Bengal has been an integrated and interdependent region. Trade and cross-border migration have resulted in cultural diversity among littoral nations and towns. The geostrategic transition from Euro-Atlantic to Indo-Pacific has given the Bay of Bengal region greater geopolitical relevance in recent years. Now, the region's natural resources are threatened by demographic shifts, environmental degradation, and repeated climate change-related calamities. People have been displaced within states and across borders as the frequency and intensity of cyclones and other extreme weather occurrences have increased. Disasters have claimed hundreds of thousands of lives and billions of dollars of damage to resources in the Bay of Bengal littorals during the previous decade. By 2050, around 30 million Bangladeshis are expected to become climate migrants. Addressing these transboundary concerns would be beyond the capabilities of a single country and would necessitate regional collaboration. In addition, the Bay of Bengal region is home to 22% of the world's population, over half of who are poor and food and energy insecure. The Bay's coastal region, which is vulnerable to sea level rise, is home to about 400 million people. Following environmental impacts on development sectors, such as declining agricultural yields, poorer labor productivity, and related health effects, countries' ability to cope with such stress is likely to be severely hampered. Securing energy supplies to sustain the region's healthy economic growth is likewise a major problem. Countries under preparedness and failure to build cooperation methods to cope with difficulties would multiply dangers even more. The Bay of Bengal area is also facing a number of security issues. Terrorism and growing violence as a result of humanitarian crisis, such as in Myanmar, have jeopardized the region's peace and stability. Transboundary security challenges, such as cybercrime and human trafficking, have grown equally difficult across the area. The scale and pace of these challenges demand sustained efforts to cooperate. However, effective regional cooperation to address the transboundary challenges would require greater integration through enhanced connectivity. The desire to increase connection inside and across borders has fueled sub-regional connectivity through initiatives like the Sagarmala project, the Asia-Africa Growth Corridor, and ASEAN's new Western and Master Plan of ASEAN Connectivity 2025. Similarly, sea connection corridors and marine connectivity have been offered by Bangladesh and India, signing maritime shipping agreements and coastal shipping agreements. While attempts are being made, the region remains one of the least interconnected in the world, with low levels of integration. The formation of the Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sector Technical and Economic Cooperation, BIMSTEC, in 2004 was an important step forward in acknowledging the necessity for collaboratively addressing the region's geopolitical and development concerns. Over the last decade, a number of meetings and high-level conferences have been convened to propose further Bay of Bengal integration. However, BIMSTEC's cooperation has been mainly ineffectual. While attempts are being made to revitalize BIMSTEC, institutional structures for tackling regional concerns remain insufficient. As a result, ongoing discourse among researchers, practitioners, and policymakers is required to identify and debate numerous difficulties affecting the area, develop ways to solve those challenges, and establish new frameworks for cooperation. It is this cooperation and collaboration that we aim to see in our Bay of Bengal Conversation. And we could not have done it without the generous support of our loyal partners who stuck with us through the roughest times. Our esteemed partners behind making this event a reality include USAID, UNDP, US FSIP Compass, World Fish, Frederick Ebert Stiftung Bangladesh, the Asia Foundation, and many others who help out in more ways than we can count. I would also like to highlight the honor and privilege of hosting the esteemed former President of Serbia, Mr. Boris Tadic. He is a full member of the Club de Madrid, which is the largest forum of former democratic presidents and prime ministers who foster democracy that delivers worldwide. I hope that his experience and voice will serve as a perfect keynote to the goals of our conference, which align according to 6 main thematic pillars: to create a new paradigm in regional cooperation for greater security across South Asia and the world, to evaluate the effects of climate change, displacement, and risk of conflicts in the Bay of Bengal region, to reinvigorate regional growth through connectivity, trade, and investment, to address shared development challenges, to recalibrate institutional and governance framework for cooperation, and to explore current and future challenges of inclusive governance. I hope that by holding such an event and bringing together such a renowned and prestigious group of minds, we can find novel solutions to the problems plaguing the Bay of Bengal today. I will not take any more time, as I'm excited to dive into our exciting sessions. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again as you join us as we set sail on our flagship conference. I hope you enjoy the coming 3 days. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ziluraman, for your speech. Now, we invite Mr. Boris Tadis to give his inaugural speech.
Dear Zilur, Rahman, Mr. Shaudi, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends from the Center for Governance Studies, I'm really honored to be with you this day in Dhaka in Bangladesh as a former president of Serbia, and I would like to share my experience with you and also to put some notices in terms of global trends and the situation we are facing with, which is full of challenges and unpredictabilities. I'm coming from Serbia. Serbia is a democracy nowadays, which is formed after fragmentation and dismantling of the former Yugoslavia, which was a well-known country in the international arena and a really historical friend of Bangladesh. We had a very good cooperation in the past, and I would like to remind yourself that Yugoslavia was supporting Bangladesh in many, many aspects, in terms of independence, in terms of development, in terms of becoming a member of non-aligned movement, in terms of all aspects of development and the position of this beautiful country in the international arena. Dismantling of the former Yugoslavia was a process which started in the 1990s and which had the end in the beginning of 2000. In my political career, I was also vice president of the parliament of the Yugoslavia, which was formed in that time by two republics, Montenegro and Serbia. Before that, we had 6 republics: Bosnia and Herzegovina, Croatia, Macedonia, Slovenia, Montenegro, and Serbia. But why I'm mentioning Yugoslavia right now? Because of the history, because of friendship, because of traditional relations between our countries and our people, but also trying to remind yourself and everyone that we are facing with unpredictability. We are facing with many challenges nowadays, and as a young man who has been living in Yugoslavia from the beginning of his life, I couldn't understand and I couldn't predict in that time that my country is going to have such a sad history, and we are going to be faced with many atrocities and many problems between very close people, the closest people in the world. Because in Yugoslavia, we're almost speaking same language, we understand each other, we have almost same genes, we have very few differences, very small differences between us that are becoming a historical aspect very important and crucial, even which are bringing all of us sometimes in significant disputes, even war. I'm mentioning that because of having in mind my experience, my political experience, my experience from my life, childhood, early period of my life, and finally, I would like to underline once again that having all those experiences in mind, we have to be very careful regarding challenges the world is facing nowadays. Why I'm saying this? In 2016, I used to be a member of the advisory board of some significant bank, European bank, which has a global impact. I was sitting in advisory board with a very experienced people, much more experienced than me in that time. Former President of European Commission, former Prime Minister of Italy, former Secretary General of NATO, High Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy in European Commission, former Minister of Foreign Affairs of Germany, former Minister of Foreign Affairs of Russia, President of Poland. And that was a few months before referendum in Great Britain about Brexit. Do you remember that Britain has been leaving European Union in 2020? That was formal decision, but they decided to do that in 2016 on referendum. But I'm mentioning this group of the people, extremely experienced people, with whom I was sharing my views about future of the world, and no one of them, experienced people, with whom I was sharing my views about future of the world, and no one of them has been mentioning that Great Britain is going to leave European Union. Everyone was commenting that this is not possible. This conference happened only a few months before Brexit referendum. I was sitting with one of the group of the most experienced people in the global arena, but no one of them even didn't take into consideration the possibility of Great Britain to leave European Union. A few months after that, I was sitting on the Concordia Summit in the United States. This is a global forum which is happening aside of the United Nations General Assembly, always in New York, every year. And I was talking with a representative of the State Department and the American political arena. And we were talking about elections in the United States. That was a situation with Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. Only one person mentioned the possibility that Donald Trump is going to win. Only one from the State Department. I talked with a really political elite from the United States. All of them has been counting on Hillary Clinton to become new president of the United States. Only one person have mentioned few months before elections that maybe Donald Trump is going to win. These two events, these two significant events, created huge impact, not only in European and United States policy, but in the global arena. I would like to bring right now in this forum also the atmosphere about war between Russia and Ukraine. Year before war happened, no one has been mentioning that war is going to be a reality between Russia and Ukraine. No one was even mentioning that. Only a few months before aggression of Russia against Ukraine, some American, United States officials has been underlining that this is possible invasion from Russia to Ukraine. But I would like to remind yourself that no one in the international arena has been trying to prevent that conflict year before. I mean, we are not naive. The war is not coming overnight. And we can even take into consideration a lot of preparations for the aggression, the war, because of intelligence and that kind of communication information. But no one in the European Union, United States, and Russia has been trying to prevent war, to find a sophisticated solution for the dispute these countries are facing with. Nowadays, we are living in an atmosphere of the war. Nowadays, we are living in a horrible situation because this is not war between, only war between Russia and Ukraine. This is war between NATO and Russia on Ukrainian soil, and this is finally war between United States and Russia on Ukrainian soil, with mainly Ukrainian and Russian victims. Let me say also something which is really affecting every moral person in the world. On the two sides of the battle front are fighting people with a Russian identity, Ukrainian identity, but also people with the same identity. Some Ukrainians consider themselves as members of the Russian culture. Some Russians are considering themselves as the part of Ukrainian Russian cultural aspect. They are fighting each other nowadays. The closest countries, closest people are fighting, that are involved in a horrible war and a horrible disputes with so many casualties and human victims. This is why I'm mentioning this in the context of the global arena and global politics. We are living in extremely unpredictable world. We are facing with unpredictability as a global phenomenon which is bringing all of us in a very difficult situation. This is fantastic atmosphere. I'm trying to put kind of irony in my comment. A fantastic atmosphere for prejudices, hypocrisies, so many problems and the weakness of the human beings, and this is creating new reality in the global arena. What is the outcome of this war and the many disputes, Brexit, and the political development in many different countries and the global powers? Outcome is that we are living in a very fragmented world right now. What is the role of the United Nations right now? What about credibility of United Nations? Are United Nations able to solve problem in Ukraine? No way. United Nations are not credible enough. They don't have a capacity even to go into the situation and to find solution. What about capability of United Nations nowadays to prevent a conflict in the future, which I understand as the main role of United Nations nowadays. Not only to send a mission, peacekeeping mission, but to prevent conflict, which is much more important than to find solution for peacekeeping missions in some countries that are facing with the disputes, with the kind of atrocities. We are really facing with the significant problems. From here, today I'm traveling in Morocco, where we have a summit of Alliance of Civilization of United Nations. That is going to be summit with attendance of Mr. Moratinos, who is running that institutions within United Nations, but also Secretary General of the UN is going to participate on this forum. But I'm going to mention this. I'm going to deliver my speech and to participate on this forum by mentioning these problems I'm sharing with you, these views regarding global community I'm sharing with you on this conference. And this is, from my point of view, one of the most important and significant problems we are facing with. Unpredictability, vulnerability, and lack of capacity in terms of preventing conflicts and disputes. Those characteristics are significant problem we are facing with all together in the world nowadays. Everyone is mentioning energy crisis, issue of food security, specific problem with the access to the clean sanitations, which is creating so many victims among the mankind, human beings. Clean water, safe energy. But I think that main problem of the global arena and the mankind nowadays is lying in the nature of the human beings and vulnerability of the global arena. This is problem. This is huge problem. As the individuals, when we are approaching to the other individuals, we are bringing not only our goodwill, but we are also bringing our prejudices, stereotypes, lack of trusting, and states are somehow behaving like human beings. But I don't know why no one was writing book about psychology of the state. But I think we need a kind of analysis in that direction in order to prevent problems and to have a more predictability regarding world nowadays and the behavior of the states. We are talking always about behavior of the human beings, but behavior of the state, the general approach of the state to the general issue is one of the most significant problems we are facing with. This Bay of Bengal conversation is very important in that respect, because we are not living only in the world. We are living also in our regions. Bangladesh is an extremely important country regarding regional cooperation. Zilur has been mentioning some of the regional cooperation aspect here. We have a significant regional cooperation right now in this area. BIMSTEC, ASEAN countries, I'm not going to mention others. You have so many, but you have so many people in this region. BIMSTEC is bringing together almost 2 billion people. 2 billion people. ASEAN countries, more than 800 million people. Everyone is talking about Europe. Europe is altogether 500 million people. But these regions are full of the people, human beings, citizens, problems that we have to solve and we have to predict in the future. In that respect, my participation on this conference is not only honor for me, but I would like also to share my views with you regarding future development and sustainability of development, which is very important for every country. I would like to mention some historical aspects. Many countries have been very happy with the economic growth. I do not want to mention some regimes which were very, very successful in that respect, like, for example, Germany before Second World War. But they didn't care about social cohesion and the aspects of the foundation of society in a proper way. And after a few decades of economic development, they destroyed country and economic potential of the country, not only life of the human beings in Germany. Many political leaders are totally focused only on economic development. But social cohesion, foundation of society, is also important in terms of sustainability of development. This is why I think this is also extremely important, like economic development and technological development. This is why I think also for Bangladesh, which is a country with 170 million people, with a huge population, with a huge potential for development, very important to think in the future strategically about social cohesion and sustainability of this development. Everyone is talking about technological improvement nowadays, digitalization, you know. I'm sitting in the board of the telecommunication company. I'm advisor of even telecommunication company in Bangladesh, which is a VEON, international this is international telecommunication and digital institution, and I'm advising this company. This is for me very interesting and very important regarding technological development, to have a real view in terms of technological development and the impact of technological development on every single society nowadays. And I see that we are contributing with the Bengali link here in terms of digitalization and development in this beautiful country. But digitalization and technological development has to be in accordance with the society, with the human beings that are living within one society. I have a real concerns in terms of very fast digitalization, which is not taking into account limits of the human beings. This is something that we have to take into the consideration. But at the same time, Bangladesh and such countries cannot create very fast development that are crucially important in terms of rising living standard without digitalization and technological impact. I know that you created fantastic results in terms of growing of your textile industry, agricultural aspect, and that was a crucially important in terms of eradication of the poverty from Bangladesh, which was the main problem of this country and this society in the past. But at the same time, right now, you have to think about the other aspects of development, and that can create very fast development and the very fast rising of the living standard of the ordinary people. This is very important. But at the same time, you have to think about impact of digitalization and the significance of the new technologies in this kind of development. And to take into consideration social aspect and social cohesion as a very important foundation of the really sustainable development in the future. You are talking about social networks right now. Communication which is without any limits right now. Everyone can participate on social networks, Twitter, Facebook, and other, the global phenomena nowadays, TikTok and something like this. But this kind of communication can be sometimes very dangerous, especially for young population, for young people. This is a country with a very young population. India, all ASEAN countries, all countries that exist in Bengal Bay. We have to think about that in the future. Let me come back on one issue which is extremely important regarding global community in the future. I mentioned unpredictability. I mentioned former Yugoslavia, Brexit, the political elections in different countries, technological impact on political elections, technological impact on democracy. And finally, we have to understand everything what was characterizing the world in the past is not going to exist in the future, in the recent future anymore. Democracy in terms of general aspect, which was an outcome of the liberal democracy and philosophy which created the rules after Second World War, is not going to be in such form like it was in the past few decades. We are facing with the changes. And those changes are very fast. And those changes are sometimes very powerful. But accommodation of those kind of changes is something that I'm thinking about very often. How we are going to create better adaptability in terms of changes and the impact of the changes. This is something that we have to take into consideration seriously. At the same time, politics is mainly about regulation of the interests of the people in a peaceful way. Politics is about rules. Politics is about legal system. Politics is about relations between national groups, countries, individuals. But politics in the form like it was is not going to exist anymore in the future because of changes we are facing with. But at the same time, we have to remind ourselves that politics is extremely sensitive. And sometimes when we think that some moves, some decisions are not going to create huge impact in the global arena, when we are underestimating kind of decisions that are happening in the politics, in the global arena, in the different states, are creating huge impact on the future of the world. Now I'm coming to Yugoslavia and Serbia, taking into account the problem of Ukraine, which is affecting every country. Serbia has been facing with the problem of territorial integrity after war that happened in the former Yugoslavia. Maybe you remember the problem of Kosovo. Kosovo was a dispute between Albanians and Serbs for years. But unfortunately, everyone who had the power on Kosovo made atrocities, Serbs or Albanians. But finally, we've been facing with a war in 1999. Serbia was attacked by NATO without decision of Security Council of United Nations. That was violation of international law. Unfortunately, I have to say this. At the same time, after war that happened, almost 1 decade after that, some of the Western countries supported the process of creating Kosovo independence. And they supported Declaration of Independence, which was delivered by Albanian politicians from Pristina. Why am I mentioning this right now? Trying to explain to you that some of the decisions that are not looking extremely important in the period of time when they are happening are creating huge impact on the global arena and global politics nowadays. The first sentence that Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin has been launching on his meeting with Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of United Nations, on this famous meeting that happened a few months ago, was, if that was possible with Kosovo, to create independency from the sovereign state, which is member state of United Nations, like Serbia. This is also possible for Crimea, Donetsk, Lugansk, Kherson, Zaporozhye. That is possible also for South Ossetia and Abkhazia in Georgia. What I would like to explain here on this conference once again. We have to live under kind of rules and the principles. If we are violating rules and principles, we don't know what is going to be impact of that violation in the future. Nowadays, we are facing with a problem in Ukraine. Ukraine has a huge impact on the global economy today. Not only in terms of food security, you know, some countries are facing with a problem because they cannot buy the wheat from Ukraine anymore. For example, Egypt, which is a main importer of wheat in the world nowadays, with 110 million people, which is also a security problem. If you cannot provide the food for such a big country, this is creating security issue in this country. If some countries are creating problems, like Russia, which recognizes independence of the Ukrainian provinces which I mentioned right now, this is creating not only impact in bilateral relations in terms of the people that are living in these zones of Ukraine nowadays. This is creating impact on food security, this is creating impact on energy security, this is creating impact on global arena in a very, very specific way. This is why I would like to mention that we are living in an interconnected world. And we have to be very careful with the kind of decision that are looking very simple. When some big states are creating kind of decision. When I talked with my friends from the United States in that time, I was the president of Serbia in 2008, when they supported Kosovo independence. I was trying to explain to them that after this decision, we are going to live in a much more dangerous world in the future. Why I'm saying this? Today, after what happened on Kosovo with Serbia, and 10 years after that, 15 years after that, with Ukraine, every country which is facing with a kind of territorial dispute, with minority which is asking independence, more autonomy, is facing with a similar problem. Because we have a precedent which is creating domino effect, which is opening Pandora box. Look, Africa nowadays. What about borders in Africa after colonialism? This is geometry, which is not taking into consideration differences of the people. Even families are living on two sides of the borders, not ethnic and religious groups. What if, for example, in Africa, someone is going to open this issue? I'm mentioning this as a kind of challenge we are facing with, because we are, as a politicians, also human beings that are not taking into consideration seriously every possible negative aspect of our decision nowadays, in the future. This country is a fantastic country with a huge potential. My country has less than 7 million people nowadays. We are losing population because of negative birth rate. This country has 170 million people. This is the biggest potential of this country. As a psychologist, I know that every country, every national group has 5% of very talented people. Very talented people, 5%. Can you imagine how many talented people you have in Bangladesh nowadays? 5% of 170 million people. It's a fantastic potential for development. I don't think this is gas, this is agriculture, this is energy. This is potential of human beings. I do not want to mention the phenomenon of human resources, because resources we have to connect with the energy, with the fuel, gas, and something like this. But human beings, fantastic potential. Now I'm talking about Bangladesh. I'm talking about politics in Bangladesh. What is the main aspect of development in the future? Human beings, extremely talented people, but not only extremely talented people, everyone. This is education. In education, this country has to invest. Who is investing in education systematically right now? In the real aspect of education, in the aspects of education that are going to create new technological and economic development, this country has a future nowadays. Overpopulation is a problem of the world. We are living in the world with 8 billion people. From few weeks ago, days ago, that was declared that we are living in the world with 8 billion people. But you have 170 million people. Extremely talented people are also living in Bangladesh. Investment in education, in the new technological aspect, in software engineering, in this kind of engineering, engineering in agriculture, in engineering in the construction business, engineering in politics also. This is why this institution is also very important. It's a huge potential for Bangladesh and such countries and the region. Magnitude of the world is moving from the west, from the Europe and United States towards east. Here is going to be center of the global politics in the future. This part of the world is going to be very, very important. And this is why I have to insist on that. You have a huge potential in terms of textile industry, okay? But with the textile industry, you can do a lot in terms of eradication of the poverty. But nowadays we are talking not only about eradication of the poverty, we are talking about fast development of this country. This is only possible in terms of investment in education and creating new technological and economic aspect of development of this country in the recent future. Yes, telecommunications are also very important, but not only telecommunication. I'm not talking only about ICT. I'm talking about a new technological aspect and new knowledge and new experience in every part of economy. You can bring new technologies in agriculture, about water management. Without efficient water management, you cannot create better potential for the country. Water management is crucially important in terms of developing of agriculture. But why I'm mentioning this? Even if some countries are investing in education, you have to have a better regional cooperation. You cannot have a good and sufficient water management only in Bangladesh. You have to have a water management cooperation in the region with India, with Nepal, with other countries. You have to have a better energy cooperation in terms of using in a proper way energy resources, gas and oil. You have to talk and to think about environment protection. You have here a huge problem with the climate changes and the population which is affected because of climate change. You have a very specific phenomena of the refugees and that are outcome of the climate changes, because Bangladesh is a country which is facing with significant problems in that respect. This is why we have to have the context and the vision, which is a very wide vision of the development of the country in the future. Bangladesh is a country with a fantastic potential to be one of the crucial global players in the future. But this depends also on you, on your leadership, of the society which you are going to create in the future, cohesion, social cohesion, sustainable development, investment in the right processes and the right fields. Education is crucially important. Education is also going to solve problems with the prejudices, stereotypes, with the many problems human beings are facing with. And this is why I'm finishing my speech with the significance of education, trying to explain to you something that you know already, but to underline once again what is very important regarding future. I'm summarizing. We are living in an unpredictable world. We are living in a world with so many problems. We are living in a world in which we are involved in a dispute between nations and the countries. and the military blocs, but also we are facing with the problem of climate changes. Earth is in a very dangerous situation. We are living in a bigger world in terms of population, but in the smaller world in terms of vulnerability and interconnection. In that respect, countries like Bangladesh, with a huge population, are having huge significance for the future, not only of the people living here, but of the world in general. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Boristadis, for your speech. To give a vote of thanks and the concluding remarks, we invite Dr. Manjur Ahmed Choudhury to the podium. Dr. Manjur Ahmed Choudhury.
Thank you. His Excellency, Mr. Boris Tadic, Excellencies, distinguished guests, friends from media, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Boris Tadic. You gave a very inspiring speech. It is my distinct honor to welcome you all to this special meeting. Some of you traveled from far away, even from Ecuador. Some of you traveled from Australia, Europe, Americas, and also from our neighboring countries, Nepal, India, Pakistan. Many of you came to this meeting from Dhaka and other cities in this country. We termed this special meeting as the Bay of Bengal Conversation. It is going to be a conversation indeed. Hundreds of experts, academicians, scientists will exchange ideas, views, opinions about the issues that affect not only Bangladesh, but also other nations. Issues about security, governance, economy, connectivity of Bay of Bengal littoral countries will feature in numerous sessions during the next 3 days. I hope there will be robust debates and dialogue among the participants. For centuries, we, the Bengali people, existed as a nation, and yet we did not have a state. We were a stateless nation for far too long. Little over half a century ago, in the year of 1971, to be exact, we fought a bloody war under the leadership of our father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, and the sovereign state of the People's Republic of Bangladesh was born. As an ancient nation with long history and heritage, we now face formidable challenges in this 21st century world. As a young nation state, our first and foremost challenge is to protect and ensure the prosperity of the people of this country and take our rightful place in the world arena, in this region and beyond. Bangladesh is nestled between two Asian giants, China and India. These two emerging powers are now engaged in an intense and complex competition. We are playing a delicate role, strategic role. But these two powers, they are trying to shape the geopolitical outcomes in this region. Straddling this complex and intense rivalry, Bangladesh must play a delicate and strategic role founded on the principles of mutual respect and sovereign equality. That is what we have been doing so far. But the challenges before Bangladesh is enormous. Repatriation of the Rohingya refugees, addressing the looming climate catastrophe, creating decent jobs for millions of men and women, ensuring sustained flow of water in our transboundary rivers are just a few. Bangladesh is forging ahead with ambitious plans. We have already achieved substantial success in establishing connectivity within the territory of Bangladesh. Significant progress has been made to enhance regional connectivity. With the financial assistance from Japan, a friendly country, we are transforming the Dhaka-Chittagong-Cox's corridor into an economic powerhouse. We have undertaken with far-reaching implications, the 100-year Delta Plan to create river corridors that will revolutionize the riverine connectivity in this country and beyond. However, we have a long way to go. Father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman dreamt of a golden Bengal, Sonar Bangla. We are not yet there. But our efforts to materialize Bangabandhu's dream is relentless. To overcome these challenges and take our rightful place in the new world order, it is an imperative that we debate these issues with open mind. Center for Governance Studies has been arranging these debates and dialogues for a long time. This year, CGS has expanded the scope of these debates considerably. The Bay of Bengal Conversation aims to engage broad spectrum of stakeholders and experts and stimulate robust dialogues on issues that matter most to the littoral states around Bay of Bengal and foster a common understanding of these issues among the people of these countries. On behalf of Center for Governance Studies, I welcome all the participants of Bay of Bengal Conversation. I sincerely hope that your participation will lead to a greater prosperity and a stable peace for the people of these countries. I take this opportunity to express my thankfulness to our partners and sponsors. Without their generous help and cooperation, this meeting would not have been possible. Once again, I and my CGS team welcome and thank you all for participating in this meeting. Joy Bangla.
Thank you, Dr. Monjur Ahmed Chaudhary. Now, we invite the esteemed inaugural speakers to stand on the stage for a quick photo shoot. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now take a short break. You are kindly invited to tea and snacks being served at the ballroom foyer. Thank you.